Hello again, Key Stage 1, and welcome to day 3 of your English writing. Start by looking at our learning journey, and today we are going to be identifying past tense verbs in a text, and this will help you when you are rewriting the story of Little Red Riding Hood. To be successful in today's lesson, you need to be able to identify past tense verbs in a text. The first one is I can identify regular past tense verbs, and they're the ones that end with the ed suffix. I can also identify irregular past tense verbs. They do not follow the same spelling rule. And I can even identify where the past tense has not been used in the text and explain why. So as always, we are starting with our retrieval, and it is another handwriting practice, this one. And this one is looking at your one-armed robot letters. As always, you can watch me on the screen practicing the letters, making sure you start on the line and do your lead-ins and lead-outs. You can also print off the letter join one, and that will help you practice your letters, or you can just practice them on a piece of paper. Once you have practiced every letter, then you can try challenging yourself to write the words that are written below, and that just helps you to practice joining up letters. So those words are bed, hip, rob and hen. Once you have practiced all of your one-arm robot letters, you can go on to the next slide and show that you are ready for today's learning. Today we have another retrieval practice, and this is thinking about previous learning that will really help you in today's lesson. So our first retrieval question is, what is a verb? And you can choose A, B or C. So is a verb a person, place or thing? Is a verb B a describing word? Or is a verb C an action or doing word? Pause the video, make sure you have a chance to discuss the answers, and play the video again when you're ready for the answer. Well done if you got that right. So a verb is an action or a doing word. For example, walked or jumped or talked. Can you think of any more action words? Any more verbs? Another retrieval practice is thinking about using the past tense, and this is something that I know both Year 1 and Year 2 have done so far this year. So let's look at these sentences. Again, we have the option of A, B or C, and you need to decide which sentence is written in the past tense. It has already happened. So is it A, tomorrow I will walk to the shops? Is it B, yesterday I walked to the shops? Or is it C, I am walking to the shops now? Pause the video, make sure you have a chance to discuss it before we go on to the answers on the next slide. If you got this one right as well. So the past tense sentence is yesterday I walked to the shops. And in this sentence, it's the past tense because it has already happened. It's not happening now. It's not going to happen in the future. It is a sentence that has already happened. So now we come to our first activity, which is making sure we know the difference between a regular past tense verb and an irregular past tense verb. So regular past tense verbs follow the spelling pattern of adding an ed suffix at the end of the word. So this is looking at the last part of the word, the end part of the word, and if it has an ed, that is a regular verb. So for example, called with the ed suffix is a regular verb. But some verbs are irregular. For example, went. It does not follow the pattern of having an ed suffix at the end. Over in this box, we have got lots and lots of different past tense verbs. You need to sort them and either write them in the regular column if they follow the rule of adding the ed suffix, or if they are irregular verbs and they don't follow the pattern of adding the ed suffix. You can write this on a piece of paper and draw the table like I did, or you can discuss it with a grown-up, thinking very carefully about which box the verbs will go in. Pause the video, and when you're ready for the answers, you can go on to the next slide. So here are the answers, and well done if you got them all right. So let's just quickly go through them. So in the regular past tense verbs, we have called, lived, knocked, replied, shouted, realised, and answered. Well done if you got those regular past tense verbs correct. And now we're going to look at the irregular ones, which are trickier to know that they're past tense verbs because they don't have the ed suffix. But here are the ones we've looked at. So went, took, met, said, ran, put, and got. Well done if you got those correct as well. So now I'm going to show you how to find the different verbs, the different past tense verbs in the text. So what you need to do is you need to read it out very slowly and very carefully. If you come across a verb that has an ed suffix, you will circle it to show that it is a regular past tense verb. Then you will look through the text and see if there's any irregular past tense verbs. I would suggest starting with the regular ones because of the ed rule. They are much easier to find in the text. So, once upon a time, there was a girl called. Wow, in the word called, I can see the ed suffix. So that means that it is a regular past tense verb. Called Little Red Riding Hood. She lived. Again, I can see that ed suffix there. So that shows me that this again is a regular past tense verb. She lived with her mother in a village near a forest. One day, Little Red Riding Hood went to visit her grandmother. She took a basket of food with her. On her way, Little Red Riding Hood met a wolf. Okay, so I have found all of the regular past tense verbs, and there was just 2 of them there. Then I need to move on to try and find some irregular past tense verbs. These are trickier because they don't follow the spelling rule, but still need to think, are they a verb? Can you do it? And if you can do it, it's a verb, and you need to check its past tense. So let's try reading it again and find the irregular past tense verbs. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Little Red Riding Hood. She lived with her mother in a village near a forest. One day, Little Red Riding Hood went. That's what she did. She went to visit her grandmother. Now, visit, again, is a verb, but it's not in the past tense. If it was in the past tense, it would be visited with the ed suffix. So that one I'm not going to underline because it's not in the past tense. So she went to visit her grandmother. She took, it's what she did, she took a basket of food with her. On her way, Little Red Riding Hood met a wolf. And again, that's something she did. She met the wolf. And that is another irregular past tense verb. So now it is your turn to go through the whole Waggle text and see if you can find all of the regular and irregular past tense verbs. What you can do, you can print out the Waggle and you can draw it on the sheet, so you can circle the regular ed verbs like I did and underline the irregular verbs, or you can discuss it with your grown-up and think about which ones are the regular and irregular verbs, or you can do a table just like we did in one of the earlier exercises, and you can list all of the regular and irregular verbs that you find. An extra challenge is to think about the story and think if there's any parts of the story where the past tense is not used, and then think about why you think this is. Before you begin the activity, remember to pause the video because on the next slide I will go through the answers. Okay, now it is time to go through the answers. This was very tricky work today, so well done if you've got it right. If you've made a few mistakes, that doesn't matter. You can just learn from the video now. So I'm going to go through it and I'm going to find all of the regular and the irregular past tense verbs for you. So let's read it through very carefully. Hello, said the wolf. The wolf did it. He said something. Where are you going? I am going to visit. Now remember, we spoke about visit. Because it's not in the past tense, we're going to leave that one. If it was past tense, it would be visited. My grandmother, who lives in the forest, explained. That is a past tense verb and it is a regular one because it has the ed suffix. Explained Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf ran. It's something he did. He ran. It doesn't follow the spelling pattern, so it's an irregular past tense verb. The wolf ran to grandmother's house. He went. It's something he did. It doesn't follow the spelling rule, so it's irregular. He went inside. Put. That is another irregular past tense verb. On a nightgown. And got into her bed. So those are the answers for that part of the text. Next, we're going to go on to the third paragraph, which is the green one. So again, I'm just going to read it through and show you where those verbs are. A little later, Little Red Riding Hood came, it's what she did, she came to the house. She knocked. Now we have the ed suffix here, so this one is a regular past tense verb. She knocked on the door. Then went, it's something she did, she went inside. Little Red Riding Hood went over to grandmother's bed. Oh, Granny, what big ears you have, she said. Said is an irregular past tense verb. All the better to hear you with, answered the wolf. We've got the ed suffix there, so we know that one is a regular past tense verb. Answered the wolf. Oh, Granny, what big eyes you have, said Little Red Riding Hood. All the better to see you with, replied. We've got the ed there, so it is a regular past tense verb. Replied the wolf. Oh, Granny, what big teeth you have, said Little Red Riding Hood. All the better to eat you with, said the wolf. Help, shouted ed, it is regular, shouted Little Red Riding Hood as she realised ed. We've got another regular verb there. She realised that there was a wolf in her grandmother's bed. She ran out of the house. A woodcutter was nearby. He heard, it's an irregular one, it doesn't follow the spelling pattern. He heard Little Red Riding Hood scream and ran to the house. The woodcutter hit the wolf over the head. The wolf ran away, and Little Red Riding Hood never saw him again. And that is all of the past tense verbs from our text. Another tricky one is this word here. Was is a past tense verb, but because it's not something you can do, that was a very tricky one to find. So if you've underlined was as well, you have got that correct. So well done. Some of you were looking at the challenge question when you were going through your text. And the challenge question was, are there any parts of the story where the past tense is not used? And why do you think that is? Pause the video now and have a little think about it and a chat to your grown-up to see if you can find the answer. This is the answer. So when a character is talking, so when there's speech in the story, it is written in the present tense. So anytime a character is talking, they're talking as if they are talking now and not in the past. That was very, very tricky. So if you did manage to have a think about that and you managed to get it correct, you should be super proud of yourself. Let's see how much of the lesson you have remembered as part of our plenary. So your question is, which sentence is written correctly in the past tense? Is it A, Little Red Riding Hood went over to grandmother's bed? Is it B, Little Red Riding Hood goes over to grandmother's bed? Or is it C, Little Red Riding Hood wented over to grandmother's bed? Pause the video, make sure you discuss the answer before you see it on the next page. You got that correct. The answer should have been Little Red Riding Hood went over to grandmother's bed. It is an irregular past tense verb. The second one is not correct because that's in the present tense. It's not something that has already happened. And the last one was incorrect because we don't say wented, we say went. See how successful you have been in today's lesson. Today you are identifying the past tense verbs in a text. So have a think in your head. Could you identify the regular past tense verbs? Remember, they were the ones that end in the ed suffix. Could you also identify some of the irregular past tense verbs, the ones that didn't follow the spelling patterns? And could you even identify where the past tense had not been used in the speech and explain why? In tomorrow's lesson, we are going to be looking at the past tense with a little bit more detail and beginning to write our own sentences using the past tense. So it's very important that you understood today's lesson. If you found it a little bit tricky, I would suggest going back over today's video again and trying to really understand the past tense before you start tomorrow's lesson. Have a lovely afternoon, everyone.